Hi, I'm Femi OK, and you're in the stream. Today, political infighting in Poland. Why is a new populist government creating such a divide? Omar Badar is filling in for Malika Bilal for the rest of this month. Omar, work to be done. Yes, we are trying to work out what is going on in Poland. We've got fantastic Polish guests lined up and also some kind of unpacking happening online too.
It really is quite incredible. You know, for some people, there's so many different reactions for what's happening in Poland. It's either the sky is falling or it's just democracy at work. So it's really quite the divergence that we see.
Sure.
And we also heard from Lisa over here who says, my beautiful grandma is among thousands of people in Poland protesting the ironically named Law and Justice Party. And here's a picture of her grandmother. Now, whether you think these protests are justified, why they're actually taking place, we want to hear from you at home. Tweet us. The hashtag is what you see at the bottom of the screen right now, AJ Stream.
I'm Eva Schweitzer. I'm a journalist and the publisher of Berlinica, and I'm in the stream.
For the very first time since the end of communist rule in Poland, a single party controls the government, and the change is dividing the country. The Law and Justice Party, also known as PiS, recently won a parliamentary majority, ending the Civic platform party's 8-year-long coalition rule. Just weeks into the new government, European Union flags have disappeared from cabinet meetings. The ruling party is calling critics traitors, and Parliament has made controversial court appointments. Tens of thousands of protesters flooded Warsaw streets in recent days amid warning that Poland's democracy is under threat. So to help us understand what is going on in Warsaw, Agnieszka Pomaska of the Civic Platform Party is an opposition member of Parliament. Grzegorz Makowski is a sociologist at the Collegium Civitas. And in New York, Matthew Tyrmand is a ruling party supporter. Good to have you here, everybody. Agnieszka, what's happening in Parliament right now? Is it chaotic? Are you sulking?
Hello. Yeah, well, we've had recently hot debates in the Polish Parliament, and actually we continue this debate tomorrow. We are really worried about what's going on in Poland, especially if we talk about Constitutional Tribunal and the way PiS is doing and what it's doing with the Constitutional Tribunal, because we feel that it's some kind of attack on democracy in Poland. Of course, we want to have these debates mainly at the Polish level. We don't really want to make it international.
You don't want us to know about what's going on.
Have to do it, but.
But it's out there. Grzegorz, this whole idea about the Constitutional Tribunal, as outsiders, how do we understand what's happening?
I think that now it's not only about the Constitutional Tribunal, because the constitutional problem, I mean the problem with the Constitutional Tribunal was only element of a broader picture.
But can you explain that? Can you even explain that as like 101? Poland right now, domestic hot politics.
Now it's becoming a symbol of changes in the whole system, in the administration, in the justice system. Today we could see new law on civil service, which is also very controversial. And I think that this case of the Constitutional Court grown to symbol of very quick, very controversial, and it's seemingly not much accepted changes in the whole system.
Okay. Yeah. All right, let me just bring in your online community. What are they saying?
So we have people who are concerned and are using pretty significant words. We have Prashant over here who says the situation in Poland highlights trend towards nationalist resurgence and authoritarian solutions, as seen in Hungary. And we have Neslihan over here who asks, is it possible to establish a true democracy and a justice system in the old Soviet bloc? Matthew, when you hear people invoking the old Soviet Union and using words like authoritarian, do you think that's justified, or is it alarmist rhetoric in your view?
Oh, I certainly think it is alarmist rhetoric, and thank you for having me. I feel that the vocalization around the world about what's happened with this constitutional tribunal is a very, very lopsided analysis of the situation. What has just transpired in the Constitutional Tribunal with the new party, Law and Justice, having sort of thrown its previous setup on its ear, is a reaction to what the exiting party, Platforma Obywatelska, Ms. Pomaska's party, did last month. Very, very unconstitutionally, they installed 2 new justices before the retiring justices' terms were up, with the express goal of making sure it was not independent.
So, Matthew, I'm just going to be really crude here. So, previous administration did a certain number of appointments. New administration comes in, changes that. Is that why Poland is divided right now?
Yes, they offset the unconstitutional maneuver that the Constitutional Tribunal engaged in as the party was being vanquished by popular mandate. This election was a referendum on 8 years of civic platform rule, and the people overwhelmingly democratically spoke and said, we are done with actions just like this Constitutional Tribunal action.
Sociologist Grzegorz,
how
divided is Poland right now? I'm trying to get a sense of what is going on. I still don't have it quite yet, so help me out. How divided is Poland?
To some extent, Matthew is right. The previous government and previous ruling party made a lot of sins, and one of their major sins in the end of their term in the office was the unconstitutional attempt to change the law on constitutional court.
But the problem... Grzegorz, here, let's do Poland 101 for today. How divided is Poland right now? This current administration, they won the election. They don't even have to make a coalition to rule. So how divided is Poland?
When you
largest
look into
unilateral mandate, I have to say.
When you look into the opinion polls, people are very much divided. Today there was a new public opinion poll showing that for the first time, PiS lost the first place on ranking, and one of the opposition parties, Nowoczesna, taken the first place. So it illustrates how people are changing and how they are reacting to what's happening. But if I may comment to what Matthew said, I mean, the problem with the actions of the new government is that they exaggerate what was done wrongly by the previous government. I mean, the changes that are done by the new government and the new parliament are going more and more unconstitutional, let's say. It's not improving situation, it's even damaging it more and more. And this is what worries more and more people in Poland. This is what I wanted to say, that this is not only the case of Constitutional Court itself, it's many people have problem with how PiS is trying to solve this problem and to change how the whole state works.
Let me show you something I've got back here. This was part of a story that appeared in the New York Times, and this is the leader of Poland's ruling party. He says, in Poland, there is a horrible tradition of national treason, a habit of informing on Poland to foreign bodies. And that's what it is, as if it's in their genes, in the genes of Poles of the worst sort. This turned into a hashtag, Omar.
It did indeed. The worst sort, essentially, is the hashtag, the worst sort of. And we have so many opposition members.
Is 100% right.
Yep. So we have, if you take a look at my screen, you have opposition politicians over here who are basically holding up placards that are saying the worst sort in reference to the worst sort of poll that was used. Here's another opposition party member who's also holding one of those. Agnieszka, I mean, is this sort of rhetoric new in Poland, or is this just normal as far as Polish politics are concerned, to call people essentially traitors and bad Poles because they are going against the ruling party?
Well, to explain the situation better, I think we have to look back. We have to look back into the campaign. Campaign of PiS was quite successful, also successful in the internet. But the problem is that the campaign was something completely different to what we have now. So during the campaign, PiS had very moderate phase, and the language they used was not aggressive as it is now. So I think it's the main problem, and it's the main reason why people are really ready now to go out on the street and protest. And actually, I don't remember if ever before any party started to lose its popularity so quickly. And it's mainly because of this change between difference between what was going on during the campaign, this moderate phase of PiS, and what we have now. The other problem is that the prime minister is not very active, because the real boss is Mr. Kaczynski, is Jarosław Kaczynski, who is head of the ruling party. So that's why we have not very clear situation. Well, officially, if you look from outside, there is no clear situation, or maybe you think that the government is the ruling, or the prime minister is the person who is the most important here. But the truth is that the leader of the governing party is Jarosław Kaczynski, former prime minister, who is using very aggressive language, and I think it's a main problem, the language that Mr. Kaczynski
when you're talking about
is using now.
The potential of there being loss of popularity, we have that actually reflected in our online community as well. We have Adriana says they have been losing on popularity recently. That's caused by them breaking Polish law and constitution. And then we have a video comment from Oscar that is commenting on the same theme. Take a listen to this.
It started appealing to more moderate and young voters who wanted change, but this has been reversed since they came to power. They started with very heavy-handed measures. They started dismantling the constitutional court, which is the only remaining check to their power. And so it's a similar thing to what Viktor Orban did in Hungary. Will it work in Poland, though? I'm not so sure. The voters are already reacting very negatively, and their support is sharply declining.
Matthew, had the party been clear about what they're going to do once they get in power, do you think they would have remained still as popular and still won the election?
I do not. The new poll that came out today that showed Nowoczesna, a party that did not exist 6 months ago, at 30%. I do not believe in this poll. Last week, PiS was polling at 44% and dramatically leading Nowoczesna and Platforma Obywatelska. I believe that on the ground in Poland, all over the country, people are very, very positively inclined to seeing dramatic change that PiS is orchestrating. That is why they won with that large a mandate. What you're not seeing in the Western press depiction is that on Saturday there was a protest, and on Sunday there was a counter-protest, a rally in favor of the government, and at least twice as many participants showed up to the Sunday rally as to the Saturday protest. But that was not reported in the Western press, but even the Warsaw Police Department said that it was at least twice as attended. And Warsaw is run by a very high-ranking Platforma party member, the mayor, Hanna Gronkiewicz-Waltz. So this is undeniable on the ground that PiS has this mandate, that they are engaging in very, very dramatic changes.
So Matthew, how many people turned out to vote?
Years of status quo.
It wasn't that big a turnout, was it? How many people turned out to vote?
No, it was about 50%, give or take.
All right.
About 50% of eligible voters,
So
which is more than usual.
Would you say that was an overwhelming mandate? 50% turned out to vote.
Of those who are engaged across all the parties, and as fragmented as it is, for them to give PiS as large a voting bloc as they did, I would say that is a very strong mandate. And if you include PiS plus a new party called
Grzegorz has been listening patiently to you. Grzegorz, go ahead. What were you trying to say? Go ahead.
Well, I'm sorry, I can't agree with you, Matthew, that this is a strong mandate. PiS didn't win constitutional majority, and what they try to do now is to change the system without having this constitutional majority, but by some bypasses. And this is what is worrying. And another thing that the turnout in Poland is indeed very low for a long time, and comparing to other European countries, 50%, around 50% is very low turnout. And with this low turnout, we also have to have in mind that PiS won the majority, one-party majority in parliament, only by 1% or something, between 1% and 2%. So it's it's a very tiny
So Grzegorz,
majority.
You've got a 50% turnout. How could we make some kind of analysis about what's going on in Poland right now? It would be wrong of us to do it based on this election, this last election. Could you say that Polish people have changed what they want from their government just on a 50% turnout?
Can you repeat this? Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Could we say what the Polish people want from their government? Has it changed now with this new administration?
I think that
If I may, if I may answer.
People wanted to change the.
Agnieszka, I hear you. I'll bring you right in a moment. Go ahead, Grzegorz.
I agree with Matthew that people were tired with Platforma government, especially that Platforma didn't implement many reforms that were promised, and forget about reforms that were necessary simply.
Yeah.
So,
and I hear Matthew say corruption as well.
Change,
yeah.
But the problem is that they had other expectations, because the whole campaign, peace campaigning, was focused on other issues, like very social, economical, and so on and so on. And for last 2 months, we have completely different actions to what was expressed during electoral campaign. And this is, I think, the main reason why peace might lose support in a longer time. Of course, this was the first opinion poll, but we will see. We'll see. It was done by after these huge demonstrations last week.
Grzegorz, let me just bring in Agnieszka. Agnieszka, people were tired of your party. That's why you got voted out.
Could you repeat, please?
People were tired of your party. People were tired of your politics.
I couldn't hear you properly.
People were tired of your
Beyond
party
tired.
and your politics. They were done with you.
Well, we were, of course, we made some mistakes and we admit it. But on the other hand, if I could sum up 8 years in the government or governing 8 years, 8 years of governance of government by my party. We were a very successful country. We were the most successful country, first of all, economically, in the European Union, and we are proud of this. Of course, we made some mistakes, and I fully understand that people needed some kind of change. But the problem is that, as I mentioned in the beginning, that peace promised something completely different that is showing at the moment. And peace, because probably the audience doesn't know, that the result in the elections of peace was 37%. And it gave them a majority alone in the parliament. So it's even worse result that my party had 4 years ago. They were quite lucky because there were a few parties that didn't get to the parliament, and these parties that didn't get to the parliament, they were more social democratic parties, or social democratic simply, and leftist parties. So not parties or the supporters of these parties that didn't get to the parliament are rather not supporting peace at the moment.
Okay.
So the mandate for governing the country is not very strong now.
Mm-hmm. Matthew?
I have to interject here. Ms. Pomaska glances over why PO lost their mandate after 8 years of quote-unquote successful economic rule. She calls it some mistakes. The people on the ground know that it was institutionalized corruption. There were bribes. In fact, her mentor, Sławomir Nowak, was caught taking watches as bribes, and he was dismissed out of government. Yes, it was, and he wasn't prosecuted because the entire judiciary has not been reformed since 1989. And the Constitutional Tribunal... No, he left. He was dismissed from government. He should be in jail.
So Matthew, slow down a little bit. Remembering, Matthew,
I'm sorry.
Slow down a little bit.
Yes.
Remember, we're watching this as an international audience, so we're not watching this from inside Warsaw. Make sure that we get why you're actually mentioning this. Though I know that you were investigating corruption. In the
needs to be
previous
said, the Constitutional Tribunal is comprised of 15 judges. 14 of them were PO, one of them was PSL. So
That's
peace
not
came
true,
in and they knew that this non-independent judiciary.
Some of these judges as well.
Yes, but they were affiliates of PO and PSL, and they voted.
So it's not simply.
They voted to allow constitutionally this totally unconstitutional act of putting in 2 new judges before their term was up before the election because they knew they would lose. The other last thing this constitutional tribunal rubber stamped before PO left power was the approval of the nationalization of the pensions, a brazenly unconstitutional act that most people did not support because they had their pensions robbed from them by the PO government in order to fund expanded spending ahead of the election.
Matthew,
and this
take a pause for a moment.
People.
I want to bring back in Omar. Omar.
So just to broaden this up a little bit, there's a lot of rhetoric about whether the government is overstepping democratic bounds, but we put out the question of whether possibly the protesters might be infringing on the government's democratic right to rule. And we got a response from Ravian over here who says opposition protest is part of the same democratic process that the government relies on. Both have their place in a democracy. Protest makes it harder to rule, and it should, but it is never a reason why it is impossible to rule. So the answer to your question is no. Grzegorz, what do you actually hope to come out of these protests at the end of the day? What concrete thing could they actually achieve, and what would you like them to achieve?
What I would like to see as a sociologist is it's a step, a little bit step behind by peace. I mean, I would love to see that they are using tools that they have. I mean, to improve the situation. Before they started putting their judges into the constitutional court, they submitted motion on constitutionality. I'm sorry for my English. Of the law that was passed by Platforma Parliament, and I think that was the way to correct the situation. The problem is that that peace is using tools that are also very controversial, and as it was decided by the Constitutional Court again, also unconstitutional. So we are in a kind of loop. And I would like to see the result of the protests, maybe not the change of government, but the change of how the government is acting. I would like the government to act within the framework that we have for last 20 years, and to some extent, I agree that with the slogan that is repeated that we want the constitution, not the revolution, and this is something that could really help us.
All right, let me just show you something here on my laptop. This is outside of a major newspaper in Poland. This newspaper is called the Gazeta Wyborcza, and the journalists there are actually demonstrating about freedom of speech and being able to have freedom for the media. There was also a counter-protest from the ruling party saying that they actually haven't done anything wrong. So as you were saying, Matthew, there are protests and counter-protests. When people are talking about democracy and maybe democracy being threatened, what is your response to that as a ruling party supporter?
But if I may add something, because
I'm going to ask you to add that something in the post show. Go ahead, Matthew, very quickly.
Democracy in Poland is very, very healthy. You can see it this past weekend with protests. Last year, there was widespread election irregularities in Gdynia, and people went to the streets, and the ruling party said it was an act of treason to question the elections, and they would not let people protest. So under peace, democracy is very healthy. It is very important to note that Gazeta Wyborcza, the paper you cite, has been getting bailout capital from a state-owned enterprise to keep it alive so that it could cover up Ms. Pomaska's ruling party scandals. This paper is not a reputable paper. It is a propaganda wing of the former government.
So
you have to really differentiate this.
In your opinion, there,
no, this is a fact.
Matthew.
This is a fact. This company would be bankrupt. You can check their filings. They've been getting money out of PZU, the state-owned insurance company, to stay alive, investment capital, as they go bankrupt, because the government has needed them to run interference on their scandals for the last 2 years, including the Afera Taśmowa hidden tape scandals that showed this government to have been lawless and violating the Constitution.
Agnieszka Pomaska and Grzegorz Makowski. I know, Grzegorz, you have more to say, but that's because we have a post show at stream.outerzero.com, and I will take all of you and your comments, Grzegorz, to the post show at stream.outerzero.com in just a moment. Omar?
I'll leave you with one closing thought from pro-government. Those protesting are leftists. They are only expressing sour grapes for having essentially lost the election.
Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you soon. Take care, everybody. Hello, we're back with the Stream's exclusive online post show discussing Poland's political infighting. I think you heard a little bit of that, actually quite a lot of that, in the last half hour. Grzegorz, I just wanted you to have more time for your comeback. What was it that you wanted to add?
I wanted to add that this counter-protest, it was, by the way, counter-protest, because the demonstrations on 13th of December 13th are organized by PiS for a couple of years to celebrate the martial law. This year it was by some accident also related to the Constitutional Court issue. So we should add this fact to this. And we should also add that many supporters to this counter-protest were brought from different places all over the Poland, and this is a little bit different to what happened in Warsaw, and it was more Warsaw protest on December 12th, and that just this. You should keep it in mind that it was a little bit differently organized.
That Saturday's protests were very organic, but they were led in part, or in a major part, by this new party, Nowoczesna, and there are all sorts of questions swirling about where Nowoczesna gets its funding. The counter rally on Sunday was very well attended, much more so than it would have been had it just been the protest or the rally that was on the calendar by happenstance. This was a
Matthew, how do you know this? Because you're in New York right now. How do you get your information? How do you stay up to date?
I'm speaking to people on the ground who attended both by the dozen. I am very, very engaged in the Polish political and civil debate. I write multiple columns for multiple outlets, and my intelligence on the ground is very, very good from all sides and all parties.
I hear lots of bickering. I'm trying to get, other than the fact that Poles were kind of tired with 8 years of one administration and they were ready for change. That's the only sense I'm getting from you. I'm just hearing lots of bickering. Is this what is this? Have we really tapped into what's really happening? Is it just politicians just bickering, or is there something more substantial going on?
First of all, I'm not a politician, neither is Grzegorz. Ms. Pomaska is, and that's why when she says that Civic platform made some mistakes and that's why they lost some popularity, that makes me very, very angry and frustrated, because I know she knows the truth, just as I know the truth, which is they went to the polls on a referendum against PO corruption. They looted the country for 8 years. They cut deals with foreign companies to avoid income taxes. They hurt the economy.
It's not true. There were no corruptions, and look at
there was no corruption,
all the
really?
metrics and all the statistics.
We'll see the reaction on YouTube
if we speak about corruption, let me say something. If we speak about corruption and all these international measures, corruption is much lower than when PiS was in the government. And
when EU-funded think tanks say there's no corruption in Poland, that's not valid. It's not valid.
You two are never going to agree. So Matthew asserts corruption, Agnieszka says it's not that much.
Than when PiS was in the government.
I just summarised your debate back and forth.
Because if you look...
So let me just go to Omar, because you two will never be on the same page. I hear exactly what Matthew's saying. Agnieszka, I hear exactly what you're saying. But I don't know what the community's saying. Omar.
We have some commentary on what is actually happening on the ground. We have Anastasia over here who said, having protests turn out was a surprising result. My Polish friends never expected it. However, having strong opposition is always good. And then we have Judita over here who says, the populists have won, so there is turmoil. But the civic community's response has been fantastic. Protesters from all walks of life. Grzegorz, do you see a silver lining in all of this, that even though there's a lot of contention right now, that it's making people get a lot more involved in politics, and that's ultimately a good thing?
Yes, I would love to have people more engaged in public life in generally. And I have some hope that it will bring more civic activity in future, basically, and more turnout, better turnout in next elections. but now we are acting as usual. As a Polish civil society is very reactive. I mean, when it feels endangered, when it feels somehow in a bad situation, then we are gathering together and go to the streets and so on. What I am lacking, it's constructive, more organized, more positive mobilization. But who knows? I think that this whole situation revealed many weaknesses of our system. And I hope that after this discussion, whatever will be the next elections after peace, we will be able to improve our system, basically, be better democracy, not worse democracy, and better civil society, not worse civil society.
Yeah. See, that will be the real test to see how peace is doing, is to see what happens on the next election. We'll have a little while to wait. Grzegorz, Agnieszka and Matthew, thank you for being part of our programme today. Really appreciate it. Take care.
Thank you so much.